Yeah, good man. How you doing?
Good. And just fed the kids and bribed the wife.
Nice.
So I'm good.
What's up, buddy boy?
What's up, man?
How much do I look tan?
Yeah,
Tanner than normal.
you look like dark cherry.
Thank you.
Ooh.
Thank you. I've been on the west coast of Florida for the past weekend, Phil.
Okay.
Just cooking in
Yeah.
the sun.
There's nowhere I'd more despise being at this time of year than in Florida, period. I mean,
I get it.
everyone's to their own, but I spent 2 weeks camping in July.
Where in Florida?
Just in Lakeland.
Okay, that's like midpoint. Yeah, it's still.
You
really
remember
hot.
when the big charismatic kind of revival thing happened there? I think it was like one of the later ones, like Todd Bentley, and everyone was going nuts.
Yeah. Oh, Todd Bentley, the guy who like kicked you in the chest.
Yeah, kick you in the
Yeah,
chest and
dude.
sleep with the secretary. The
Yeah.
whole
okay.
thing. But
Classic.
classic. Usually not at the same time, I don't think. So that wasn't going on. I got neither, to be fair. But I did get healed of like a lifelong condition that you can't be healed from. And so,
Whoa.
Oh, praise
do what
God.
you do,
Hallelujah.
right? I mean, it's like shaka
Yeah.
bunky or whatever. I don't know.
I like Shakabunky. I think that's pretty good.
There you go.
Yeah,
That's my
Phil. I don't know if
charismatic
you've heard of.
throwback.
I don't know if you heard about Florida, but the people who are on the beaches and refuse to wear the mask and stay at home, that's Adrian. So basically, his family went to the
Okay.
beach this week.
Oh,
This-
okay.
this
Yeah.
And just
sums up his face. Just
Yeah. That's what I get.
right.
just
That's what I get.
racking up
Is
those
that-
COVID numbers, dude.
It's a COVID
Yeah.
flush from all the sweat he's going through
That's
from the
the-
fever.
Yes.
I love
Oh, God.
Wonderful. Guys, I'm excited. I'm really excited to have you guys on.
Yeah, man. It's really cool.
I'm really looking forward to it. I've only managed to listen to a couple of your podcasts. I have to be honest, I'm a much bigger consumer of your Instagram. I managed to listen to like 1 or 2 podcasts a month. I just never find time. And so
Sure.
I've only listened to a couple and I love it. I just absolutely love it. I love your
Yeah,
banter.
ours
I
aren't
love
short.
chill,
very long.
relaxed. Yeah, I mean, well, I can't say anything. Mine
Yeah.
average between 2 and 3 hours. So yeah, so I can't say anything at all about it. Like,
Yeah.
and I prefer it, right? I don't know, like I think long form is the way to go. People are shifting
Mhm.
towards it. They're more open to it. And
Yeah.
yours
Yeah.
are like every 2 weeks, right? So like
Yeah.
you can't listen to 2 hours in 2 weeks, which is me. Like, screw that guy. Again, me, but yeah. No, it's cool. It's good to have you guys on. I don't know
Thanks, man.
what you guys want to talk about. I don't know what I want to talk about. I figure we just maybe talk about some of your stories, journeys, banter about Christianity, some of the stuff you've been discussing on your podcast, plug your podcast a whole bunch.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
Sounds good to me, man. Listen,
Yeah.
we're good to just kind of meander. And what I
Awesome.
find is like, as you talk, eventually you just find a thing to attach to.
That's why I do long form. I talk for my country. I know you guys can talk and it's all good. And it gives way more room to be fun, relaxed, have general conversation. You can go off on any derailment. There's nothing off topic. You can cuss, you can do whatever you want. Like there's no rules. Just be yourselves. And
Cool.
Great.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it because I have a lot of people on that I'm like, dude, lighten up. Seriously, I'm really throwing out jokes and they're just like wham off a wall, which is quite funny to listen to anyway. I'm sure I get comments of like, dude, that guy was not into your jokes, but I was chuckling away and I'm like, okay, cool. I'm probably just not very funny, but
Yeah, no, I totally get it. We have a guest that we interview and like you can tell that they're people who are on staff at a church. And we've had a couple folks like that.
Yeah.
right.
And we don't have any sort of filter or any sort of like anymore. And you can tell when they do. And like they'll like say fuck before we record. And then they'll say like frig during the interview. And I'm like, okay.
Now my pastor's listening or now the people
right.
paying
Now
my bills. are
Exactly.
That's
exactly.
yeah. That's it. That's the beauty of doing your own thing, man. It's awesome. Cool.
Yeah, that's what I told Adrian when we first started this thing, or we're thinking about starting it. I'm like, dude, are you prepared to like burn every bridge with every church we've ever done? Because that's the direction I want to go. I just want to go full bore, That's where it landed us.
Did you start? We'll just start from the start. I think we'll probably just be recording already. So there you go.
Cool.
Hope you didn't say anything secret. But is that how you started? Did you start going, screw it, we're going all in? Or did you kind of have this kind of like, let's see where it goes? And you've kind of come to that place of like, oh, we're going in. We're really bearing our souls here. Or did you always kind of expect to do that?
It kind of happened. There's like a cigar spot that we frequent around here. And, so we planned like a dude's hangout. And at that point, Adrian and I were already out of the church. Okay. We had already left the church we planted and kind of like on the outskirts of the church landscape down here in South Florida. And so every one of the guys that were supposed to show up didn't show up.
Wow.
It was just me and Adrian. Like, that's fine. I get to hang out with Gibbs again. That's cool. And like, hey, dude, you know what I was thinking when I was mowing the lawn today? Like, we should start a podcast. And then Adrian says,
I was thinking the exact same thing. And I think what's funny is that we kind of knew that going in, we're like, we wanted to have a very clear idea of what we're going for. Mm-hmm. And so we knew, like, we like counted the cost, to use some good Christian language.
Hey,
we counted the cost of discipleship. And so like, we really like laid out, like, here's what do you want this to look like? How serious do you want this to be? Is this supposed to just be like some stream of consciousness shit? Or is this supposed to be something like highly produced? And so we went in with a certain idea. And then I think over time, it starts to kind of take some shape that you don't know beforehand, right? But right from the get-go, our first conversation was like, well, what is something that we know? You know what I'm saying? So like, I couldn't talk about video games, right? And like, I'm not a video game kid. Link is, right? And like Link couldn't talk about like mechanical watches or some shit. And that's something I'm really into. So we were like, we need to find like something. And just because we have grown up in church, like that's all we know.
Right.
Like, we defined our life for decades. It was one of those things where it's like, well, this is the language we speak. So let's just speak that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we said like, when we first started having our deconstructive thoughts, or however you want to phrase it, when we were kind of heading down that path, we both talked and said, it would be great if we had someone to listen to when we're going through that. I think that, because we had a bunch of ideas and how we wanted to structure it and get guests and blah, 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 blah. But I think that was the driving force behind it. Just provide, if one person listens to it and gets some sort of comfort out of knowing that they're not alone, because that's exactly how we felt. And we still felt while we were like making the podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Adrian said, we were in the church. I was in the church for like 20 years plus.
Wow. Like
nonstop every Sunday. And then for a while there, a good bit, every Sunday, Saturday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I got all the Jesus points.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how it started. It was just from this desire, because Adrian and I both like creating things. Mm-hmm. Was this desire to kind of jump into podcasting. And I think what was attractive to me was this could be where I could like truly be myself. Because before in any creative adventure, there was always like that nagging voice, like, well, you have to, what if someone from your church hears this? I'm like, well, I don't got no church to go to now. I don't go to church anymore.
Right.
So let's burn this bitch down.
Yeah.
But that's definitely a notebook. Let's burn this.
That's your like first subtitle. It's like, Dirty Rotten Church Kids. Let's burn this mother down.
Yeah, with no context.
It's better.
People tune in thinking like we're a funk podcast, like playing funk songs.
All good. All good.
No, but yeah, that was like the impetus for it all. And then, yeah, it's just been crazy. It's been less than a year, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I think.
And you guys have blown up. Like, I mean, I feel like every time I click on your page, I'm like, whoa, they've like doubled their followers. Like, I mean, you just posted not that long ago, oh, we've just hit like 10,000 listens on the podcast. Like, I mean, that's huge. Like since November, is it? Like, you know,
November,
7 months. Amazing.
It's been crazy.
Really cool.
It's been crazy. And I think really we didn't expect anyone to listen to it.
Yeah.
Like we didn't expect anybody. We just started doing the podcast. We made an Instagram handle because like, if you have a podcast, you gotta have an Instagram handle. And somehow it just turned into
you sucked us all in with your memes, man.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, that's why I was there for a long time. The first time I listened to your podcast, not gonna lie, last month. So you had me probably for like 4 months reading your memes before I was even like, I probably should listen to these guys.
But you're not the first person, because someone's like, yeah, I followed your page, or someone shared a meme on my page and I just listened to episode 7. Like they just pick one out of a grab bag, like this one.
Right.
Yeah. That's how
fine.
it usually happens.
Yeah. And that's how I picked your guys. It's like, I think I posted and I was like, I'm going to finally listen to Dirty Rotten Church Kids. Like I've had like 20, 30, 40 people message me say, you guys, you have to listen to it. You have to have these guys on or whatever. And I was like, and I said, which episode? And people like listed, and I kind of tallied it up. And I was like, that's the first episode. I wanted to give you the best shot, right? Because if I started with your shittiest podcast, right? You start the first one when you're like, what? How does this work? And you're like banging the mic and like, I don't know. Like,
that's exactly it. Exactly it.
That's still our last episode we just recorded. Yeah, that was the last one.
That's pretty much every episode.
You're like, oh damn, we hit the microphone a lot. This guy's gonna think we're an amateur.
Yes.
Yeah, I think like the whole like meme thing, it just kind of happened, and Link and I are just we're just sarcastic jackasses kind of in general, and so we have this running commentary of we'll just see something that we think is like kind of shitty or kind of funny, and I'll just be like, caption this, and then we'll just kind of just go back and forth to be like, this is ridiculous, and then we just started posting it, and then it's just funny how like that is a way that people connect with us. Yeah. And people who have never listened to a podcast will be like, oh my God, thank you so much for your work. And I'm like, the amount of content that is released in a meme is itty bitty compared to like a 2-hour long podcast times 21 episodes or whatever. Yeah. But even that little like itty bitty square on Instagram can still do something. Yeah. And that's make you feel like you're doing something.
Picture says 1,000 words, right? It's got to be like 20 minutes of a podcast.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. So we should do like what's a good ratio? How many Instagram posts to one
How
whole
many
episode?
podcasts you putting out every 2 weeks? So if you can divide it up by
what's interesting is like the memes or what we post attracts a certain type of person. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is just see the conversations that happen underneath the Instagram post. And we've had, it's really cool just seeing other people discover other friends, like, and they connect virtually. And then the people in our DM just asking us questions or sending us stuff. Yeah. That's, to me, I love hearing people's stories. I'm like, I have so many podcasts that are just stacked up on my phone because I love listening to them. Yeah. And so I love when someone DMs us like from South Africa or from the Netherlands or someone in our own city who we didn't know. And them sharing their stories to me, I'm like, damn, like we put a lot of work into this. That is worth it. Just to hear them say thank you for this, or just now I know someone from another place, from New Zealand. Now I know someone from New Zealand.
You got a couch to crash on if you want to go to New Zealand there.
Hey, I'll take it. Yeah. I think to kind of like piggyback on what you were saying earlier, Link, I remember I started my deconstruction maybe like 4 years ago, and Josh maybe like shortly after that. And all I remember was just a vacuum. It's like, I don't know what I want to eat, but I know I can't keep eating this, you know? And I remember talking to like, I probably messaged maybe 5 people because that's all I knew. Yeah. And I was like, hey, like, what else can I read? Like, this isn't working. I don't know what. And no one got back to me. Nobody.
Wow.
And so, and this was like earlier, dude, like this was back when like everyone was into Chandler. You know what I'm saying? So like, if you're not into Mark Driscoll and you're not into Chandler and you're not into Francis Chan, then there was nothing else, right? Like,
aren't into this.
Oh God, we need to hop off real quick.
Phil like picks up a Francis Chan picture.
Internet's.
He just pulls away his face, and it's Francis Chan.
Damn, Francis.
Just pan the camera to the left, and
it's like Mark Driscoll
on one side, Chandler,
just punching a drywall.
Yeah, we trapped him.
Mark Driscoll's just punching the wall.
You're not a man. Yes, you're not a man. Yes.
Oh my God, no, but yeah. So like, we didn't have that, and so. It was one of those things where it's like, I wish that I had someone like Phil, the work that you do. I wish that I had heard of you 4 years ago or whatever, you know, like I wish I had heard of all these people. And the only person I had heard of was Rob Bell. Yeah. And Rob Bell was a heretic, and you stayed away from Rob Bell. Of course. Right? And so I didn't, when you don't have any other alternative, you feel so lost.
Yeah.
And I think when we started this, it was more just being like, hindsight being 2020, you're like, oh shit. All these things that we had talked about to arrive where we are now, why don't we just like hash that out for whoever else might find that interesting?
Yeah.
You know,
it's huge. I mean, like you cannot understate how lonely and how disconnecting this can be, the process. And like, it's mental. I mean, it's the fastest growing spiritual movement in the US, at least, and largely in the Western world, is people leaving the church. Yeah. That's the fastest growing spiritual movement. 80%, 78% of them claim to still have a spirituality as they leave. And there's 3 million a year leaving the US church, not going to another church, but
just leaving.
Done. Yeah. You know, there's a lot more that are moving around, but like, that's insane. And yet most of them go, God, I wish there was someone else doing this. And you're like, are you kidding? There's like 8 people on your street. You know, if you just knocked on like 5 doors and said, are you done with church? You probably not get many doors down before someone's like, yeah, dude, but I wish other people were. But, you know, and so it's such a disconnecting and lonely thing. And yet, like, we just need these kind of platforms like what you're doing, what I'm doing, whatever. Rob Bell, he's doing amazing stuff, but yeah, he is the poster boy of like, don't do that, don't go there. And when he's the only person you've heard of and you're like, oh shit, am I Rob Bell? This is
that's right.
Well, right?
Yeah,
like, I don't want a farewell from John Piper. Like, you know, like,
I want one. I want a tweet. Now I do. Goodbye, Josh Link. Oh, I've arrived. I'll make that
everyone's like
terrible rhyme, but you know,
yes.
Josh Link, you stink. Like,
Nice.
Yeah, no, but it's interesting. I forget who messaged us, but someone else did, and they were talking about the same that vacuum, that loneliness you feel, because when you're in the church, your life is the church.
Yeah,
like your friends are there, our jobs were there. Our creativity was molded there and for a long time stayed there with music. Like your mentorship is there. There's so many other churchy terms, but when you leave it, like you're thinking you're leaving it because for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And then you don't realize the consequence that has in your life when you leave. And like, unfortunately, the majority of our friends that we had were like, not that they don't want anything to do with us, but they were told they shouldn't talk to us.
Right. You don't fit anymore. Right.
Exactly.
It just doesn't work.
Yeah. I was thinking, I feel like it's like when you break up with a person you were dating for a long time, then you go try hang out with their friends again.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of like, I guess I like you. Okay. But I'm like, really, I'm friends with her or with him.
Yeah.
And I think when it's church, the same sort of thing where it's like, I can hang out with you, but like, I'm kind of friends with the church first. And like, if I can't really hang out with you anymore, it is what it is.
If you don't have God, I mean, like, it's a hard sale.
God is my girlfriend. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think when people, and I'm sure you've heard this too, is like someone reaches out to you, is like, oh my God, I've never heard anyone say this. And that's the way it feels until you get there. And then you're like, holy shit, these people have been saying, all of these people are saying all of these things so articulately and so well for years. Right. But you don't see it until you see it.
Yeah. And it is, I mean, it's very hard to discover people at when you've grown up in the bubble, because the bubble protects from those people. It's not that like, you know, they don't exist. It's literally that we can't, just to the point that Rob Bell's like, I'm thinking of bringing out a book about hell, right? I mean, I wrote a trailer, right? And here's a trailer for it where I'm not even going to tell you what I'm saying. I'm just going to give the premise of the book, the idea that forms the question. And immediately the evangelical bubble, you know, the reform bubble go, oh shit, we're so scared. We're so scared of what answer he might give, because we don't actually know what answer he's going to give. That's not out there yet. There's no pre-release books to read. There's nothing to review. We have to write this guy off and stop people listening to him, which of course probably sold more books to evangelicals than ever would have got. But like, it is that fear of like, we have to isolate and disconnect, which, I mean, it makes you go, I have no idea who to listen to. Maybe you go and find your churches like blacklists, like, you know, like who are we not allowed to? I've been part of churches that have like a full list. Of, like, if you hear members mention that they've read the book by this person, listen to this podcast, you need to pull them aside and have a talk, because they are like on a slippery slope. And it could be anyone, right? I mean, like some of them, it's just like, oh, this guy's like a charismatic evangelical versus like, you know, whatever. I mean, everyone's got their lines, and some people's lines are like, you know, so near the beginning of like this deconstruction journey, if not even on the deconstruction journey, right? But yeah, I mean, it could be like Joel Osteen if you're Mark Driscoll, or it could be, you know, But yeah, like people like Rob Bell and maybe people that we would now associate with, you know, you just had like Kevin Garcia or, you know, whoever else, Joe Lumen or whatever. And the people are like, oh, Jesus, like if they mention decolonization, get the hell out.
Get the hell out, yeah.
You know? But it's hard to come across those people when you have been protected from it being exposed to them, you know?
Yeah, I think it's like you nailed it right there, Phil. Is like you've been protected in the church bubble, whether you know it or not. Like you have these biases given to you by your pastor or your church or the umbrella your church sits underneath. There's a ton of churches down here in South Florida, and there's a couple roads where it's just roads of churches. Right. And like we've both been a part of churches where like we share a parking lot with another, like in one case, we shared a parking lot with a synagogue, or you share a street with a Pentecostal church, and there's no talking to the other denomination. There's no talking to the other religion. And so you're protected in this bubble. And then once you get out, like you find your Rob Bell or you find your other gateway drug, Richard Rohr, or whatever you find. And then you go back to have those conversations with people who are still in that bubble, and they don't know how to answer because I don't think, at least I never sat underneath an apologetics class that answers like real questions. No. Right. I think that's the biggest issue, is that the apologetics classes are all like scientifically driven, but there's not one for if your friend decides he doesn't believe that the Bible is inerrant now. And so they've been dependent on the church for so long to provide the answers. They don't really have a way to kind of sift out their own answers until you like rip it all away.
Yeah.
I feel like, to your point, I think when we were brought up, any question that someone came with you at, you wouldn't actually treat it like a true question that needed to be considered. And you'd sure as fuck wouldn't say, I don't know.
Yeah. Right.
We may never know. Any question was always positioned as a apologetic opportunity. You're like, oh, and if you don't know the answer, you're like, oh, that's a good one. And then you would like jot it down in your little notebook of ways to like school your atheist friends. You know what I'm saying? And so every question always was undergirded by this sort of like, let me kind of file this away so that I can win a battle later. Right. And so when real questions are handled and you interact with somebody who knows what you're going to say, and that doesn't work either, then what do? You just write them off. And so I think that's what happened to us in a lot of ways, where it's like, we certainly have people who are still friends with us after leaving the church and are still friends with us after listening and starting the podcast. But a lot of it is kind of like, they're lost. It's a lost cause. Don't even waste your time.
Yeah.
And if you say don't even waste your time, really what that means is like, we're not going to win. So don't even bother. You're not going to win, which I think is a total paradigm. You know, that's an evangelical paradigm.
And they hold that thought of their lost cause while also holding the same thought that anyone who doesn't believe that the way they do is going directly to hell. So that implies like, hey, they're fine. Just let them go to hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they don't think like that.
And you would never say that. But that's really what you're saying.
But you do say it just in like separate sentences over different over different talks.
You can't connect those two.
That's what you can.
Doing.
Yeah. It's that. I actually had a conversation this weekend with someone's just like, so you don't believe in sin? Like, well, I do, but I don't call it sin. Like, I believe like there's a way to live in your divinity. And then I'm saying all these things like, I hope they understand, because the way I'm talking, I wouldn't even understand back then. So
no.
If they ask, I'm like, cool, yeah, let's talk about it.
They're like, dude, did you just get out of Burning Man? Or like, what is the deal, right? Because they have, you said divinity, like, you talk about like, PC game or like...
Revelation isn't true. Like, well, I'm sure there's an island called Patmos, and I'm sure John was on some crazy drugs, dude. Let's do that and talk about Revelation.
Let's have drugs. And we'll have comments from people on Instagram, and it's one of those things where they'll say something like, hey, you guys are like really negative. Like, hey, who are you edifying by like saying this? Or they'll be like, hey, like, wait, are you just angry at churches? And these sort of questions, it's almost like you do not have enough time to have this conversation, because in order for us to get underneath all of it, like it isn't this sort of pithy, snappy response. Like there isn't a bracelet I can wear to talk you through my deconstruction, right? And so, but that was the language we were brought up with, right?
Yeah, that's what you use all the time.
Right. The entire mystery of the divine can be summed up in like what is it, like G is less than my ups and downs or whatever, or like a special bracelet. Like the entire mystery of God can be summed up in a super bite-sized, palatable way. Yeah. And so people who are brought up that way, it's very difficult to even hear nuance, you know?
Yeah. It's funny. You mentioned that, Gibbs. I don't know if they had it over there across the pond, Phil, but the U.S. has a bunch of dumb or the evangelicals in the U.S. have a bunch of dumb ways to kind of teach kids how to give the gospel in a cool, niche way. So they had like these little cubes that each cube was a different color, and each color, whatever, represented a life of Christ. So they had like these little balls, like soft, not sponge balls, but like.
Do you guys have like soft balls? You have soft balls?
Yeah, soft balls over there.
Like a soft, like a spongy Jesus ball.
Too wimpy,
okay,
you know. Like.
So they put 3 of them together and hung them on a hook, and they wanted to give it out to the kids so they could give the gospel to their friends, and they called them Dingleberries. No shit. That's for real, dude.
Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
How out of touch.
Would you like some Jesus? Would you like some Jesus Dingleberries?
Yeah, man.
Jesus, you're like selling amazing. It on the corner.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys have that over there, but we'll send you some your way.
We don't have Jesus Dingleberries. If you send me some, I'll put them up in my office behind me on the podcast.
I want to hang them in the back of your car.
Oh God, that's amazing! What the hell?
Get your Dingleberries, your Jesus
dude.
Dingleberries.
It's weird in some ways. Like the UK feels like, just in a human psychological development component, like Europe is generally speaking about 10, 15 years ahead of North America on the whole. Just in some of its different outlooks, politically, socially, you know, how it approaches science, different things like that. It tends to be more modern, postmodern, whereas America is more traditional and then coming into modern. Yeah. What's fascinating, though, is there's a whole culture within Europe that almost seems to be going backwards, where it kind of glorifies American Christianity. And so I lived in this weird bubble window where there was a time where I grew up, like, where we didn't do like really crazy shit. We didn't have like Veggie Tales, or someone sent me a video the other day of some guy this TV show ran for like 14 years. And it was some guy that was teaching teenagers how to teach the gospel. And it was the worst thing I've ever seen. I can't remember what it was. I can't remember. It was horrific. I immediately blacked out, like everything to do with it. But he was like, oh, you must have had this. And I'm like, no, dude, we just wouldn't have tolerated. And yet now I feel like we're lapping that stuff up. Within the evangelical church, they're lapping up the American export. I think it's because the church in the UK and in Europe is just done. It's dying. And so they look to which churches are growing, which churches are thriving. The only church in America that's growing is the evangelical church.
Yeah.
Of course, people don't look at the data, and the church is growing because that number, the only numbers that are coming into the evangelical church is from the other churches. They're not actually growing by saving people.
They're just moving around.
Right. So all those people that are leaving everywhere, and most are leaving completely, especially when they leave the evangelical. Some go, we could try maybe more kind of family friendly, maybe lively, maybe some good music, like whatever. And then they kind of tend to keep going. But yeah, like, so I think there's a dynamic of that, but I missed like so much of this stuff. I don't know, maybe it's because I also hated a lot of it. I wasn't interested. So.
And that to me, like, I love niche, dumb movies.
It's my favorite thing.
I love, like, for a while, I don't know if you've heard of Wittenberg Door. They were a collective community based out of Texas that took it upon themselves to basically like a watchdog community on all the televangelists in America. And so they put out a weekly, in the style of like Mad Magazine, like a weekly like cartoon and stuff. And they did like little documentaries on VHS of them like dumpster diving into like Creflo Dollars dumpsters and pulling out all these prayer requests that they'd just thrown away.
Doing God's work, man.
Oh yeah. So I love that stuff. I love the
vigilantes. They're garbage vigilantes.
Oh, honestly. I love the extremes. I mean, like, when people ask me like how I come up with stuff, how I kind of come up with like an idea for a meme or whatever, I'm like, dude, I like follow every crazy person I can find. Like, if you go on Instagram, I don't follow that many people. I'm like following like 300 people because I just try and like not like
zone in
too much in. And then you actually look at who I'm following like loads of great people, and then maybe like 200, 250, and then I'm like 50 to 100 people. It's like Wretched Radio, John Piper, like, you know, like
Wretched Radio. Oh,
insane.
no, Phil.
Dude, Wretched Radio is the funniest
You're
shit
triggering me,
you will
dude.
ever
You're triggering me.
watch. It is, I mean, Todd Friel is the voice for radio, and
so
and insane on every
level. I used to watch him on something else. I forgot what he did. I don't know, but it was like when I was heavy into John Piper, going to Passion conferences, because I'm a Christian boy. And then I found Wretched Radio after all this, and I started watching again. Like, holy shit! I thought Glenn Beck was crazy. This dude is just out there. Gibbs, he's like a radio guy.
Dude,
but
if you haven't seen his
title,
stuff, you need to type in Todd Friel into YouTube the second this is over.
His voice is magic, though.
Honestly, I mean, if my friend does a good impersonation of him, and we've talked about potentially doing a podcast with Todd Friel where he just impersonates him the whole way through, and we just have like a picture of Todd Friel, but we have no. I'm pretty sure we'd immediately get sued, so we're probably not going to do that. But we do like when I was traveling and speaking in like lots of churches and stuff, we often, when I get into New England, we travel about 1,500 miles. It's just like crazy amount of miles in like, 2 weeks, driving around all these different churches and communities and stuff. And we would listen incessantly. Oh, that was a mirror falling over.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
Sort that out.
Oh shit. It's Todd. It's Todd Friel.
No big deal.
It's Todd.
Break, so I'm good for 7 years still.
No, that was Mark Driscoll. He was letting you know that
Mark.
There you go.
That's Mark Driscoll's poltergeist.
How dare you touch God's anointed, Todd Friel? We would literally, me, him, and his wife in the car driving hundreds, thousands of miles, and we'd listen to Todd Friel nonstop and just pause every 3 seconds, like crying with laughter, weeping. And his wife would just go insane. She's like, "Do we have to do this?" She just did not. So every now and again we'd have to break and listen to something else. But I've listened to more Todd Friel than probably any other preacher.
Really?
All out of comedy. I've never actually listened to him.
Does he actually lead a church, or is his Wretched Radio his ministry?
Wretched Radio is his church, man. That thing is huge. But yeah, I don't think he's a church pastor. He'll probably be some sort of elder on.
Yeah, I just watched
church.
I just watched it because he shit on a bunch of other people. Like, oh, that's pretty funny, because it's like with a comedic spin. But once you're like out of the evangelical circle, like that's like a passive aggressive thing. It's not even funny.
Ooh, not even passive aggressive most of the time. Like really, really aggressive at times.
Really?
And really, really ridiculous sometimes as well.
Oh yeah.
There's nothing. I've never heard him applaud anything. Literally, he'll find anything and go, "That's not the gospel. What kind of lunacy is this?" And he'll be like tearing apart.
That's pretty
John
good, Todd Friel, dude. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I've got a few hours in. I am not good. I am not good at impersonations either. But like, he'll listen to someone like, you're like, "Oh, well, he's gonna like John MacArthur," and then he like gets upset about something, just one thing, and that's it. He writes this guy. I have no idea how he has friends, connects with anyone. He is a comedy god, but possibly mostly unintentionally.
Yes.
But yeah, well worth listening to.
All right.
But yeah, so
I'm gonna have to add that to my list.
You listen to something like that and you're like, "Oh, in this 1 5-minute segment he did, I've got like 30 memes I can make immediately off the bat. Like, this is gold." And it's ridiculous. Like, it's true. Like, people believe this stuff, but it's like a caricature of the truth. You know what I mean? So it just makes it so much easier to spot. You talk about these things that people believe, but they don't really say it or connect it. And then you just look at Todd and you're like, "Oh, that's what they believe." Huh.
Right. Got it.
Like Westboro Baptist Church, right? It's like they're extreme and no one actually is going to go pick at a funeral. But when you look at what they're teaching, you're like, "Oh, that's actually kind of pretty close to what I used to believe." Like, I wouldn't have overly. A lot of my churches when I was growing up, we wouldn't have disagreed with Westboro Baptist. We would have gone, "Well, they're a bit on the edge, don't like their methods, but the theology is pretty sound."
But that's what Penn from Penn and Teller said that one time. He said that someone came to his show after they finished in Vegas and offered him a Bible, and he's like, "I'm an agnostic or an atheist, wherever he lies." But he's like, "I respected that person, because if you truly believe what's in that Bible, you should be doing that all the time."
Yeah.
And I was showing that video as a means to fire me up for evangelizing the people or winning souls for the gospel. But yeah, I mean, if you truly believe what's in that Bible, then you should not be sleeping. Yeah. You should be day in, day out trying to rescue all those souls, because if you don't, everyone's going to hell.
Yeah. And I think that's Yeah. And it's like, if you just kind of like dilute it a little bit and just kind of keep diluting it a little bit, like it's a lot more palatable. And that's what like a lot of our friends, they would never say some of the shit that maybe Westboro would ever say.
No.
But like, if you get like kind of push enough like buttons, you'll hear a very similar sort of message. And I think that's what part of my deconstruction, and probably Josh for you too, is you're kind of like, I mean, you can say all the things you want in as cool of an atmosphere as you want, and you can use as much like churchy language, but like, if we're honest, you're really saying that all the gays are damned. You know, it's kind of like, and so it's getting underneath that stuff that I think started the snowball for us. And yeah, it's just been interesting.
Yeah,
for sure.
Were you guys going through, so talk to me about, I don't know much about your history, but you guys were planning a church together, right? Were you?
Yeah, we planted, and it was around for what, 6 years, Gibbs?
Yeah.
Wow.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we so Josh and I have known each other for over a decade.
Long time.
And a long time. And we were worship leaders at a church together. Okay. And then the pastor from that church decided to go plant. And then we decided to go with him. And it kind of started as it was very much like the classic trope of like the youth guy who's going to stick it to the big church, who's going to go plant his own thing, and inevitably turns up becoming the big church. You know, like that's just how it goes. It's like that. Have you seen The Dark Knight?
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like you either die the youth pastor or you live long enough to see yourself become the lead pastor. And that's just exactly what happened.
So funny.
Yeah.
And so we planted the church, and it was that process, and we were bivocational. I mean, we weren't, and I think the dream was always like, well, if I just hustle, if I just sacrifice enough, then this will be my life 24/7. This will be all I ever do. And then I'll feel good. Then we'll have arrived,
Yeah, it was a lot of work, but and before working at a church, like you get to see the ins and outs of how things function, but like starting a church and then having to run the church in South Florida is such a weird area, and where we ended up planting a church in retrospect was not strategic at all. And then looking back, like hindsight being 2020, just we both gave so much of our energy into that, that when we left, we both left. Like Adrian left when? Was it like before Christmas or after Christmas?
It was before Christmas.
And then I left that following summer, and we both were asked to leave quietly out the back door. We were asked to not to contact anyone or tell anyone. And then we start hearing from people at the church, why are you doing this? Oh, you and your wife are getting divorced. You have marital problems. Like, oh, what? Like, we built the place you guys go to. Like, okay, cool. So if wherever I was heading mentally in my thoughts, all of that just like lit it on fire even more. I'm like, oh, okay. Because of all the like little whispers you'd hear of people leaving the church and how they were treated. Now I was like living it out. I'm like, yep, right. What everyone was saying is exactly true. This is all just, unfortunately, a true stereotype of how when you leave the church, everyone's like, oh, you're banished. Get out of here.
Right. Yeah. Right. It relegates yourself of any sort of responsibility. It's kind of like anyone that leaves, like, well, they're whatever. It's their problem. Like they're angry. They're bitter. They weren't whatever. And so, and man, honestly, like we were a part of that, like when that's all that's the language you speak, and that's just the way you behave. And so we would be these church planters, and it's one of those pop-up churches, where you like walk into a school, you set everything up, and you're there for 3 hours and you tear everything down. And so like your whole Sunday is essentially just playing church. Yeah. Kind of putting on the big show. And then when people leave, you would find some way to sleep at night by saying like, well, like they just weren't, we're just not for everybody. They're just not here for the gospel or whatever. And then when it happens to you, it's an interesting perspective shift for sure.
Yeah. And it makes sense though. Like you have like these trigger things of someone being upset and that they're bitter, or, like, and this is happening. And you have your like, oh, that's what this is. And that's what that is. And so you look through all those different, I don't know if you saw, I did a series recently. I don't know if it'll probably keep going, but the deconstruction myths, like people that deconstruct are bitter. People that deconstruct never really took their faith seriously. People that deconstruct,
all the time.
were never really saved, or, all these things.
That's my favorite.
Okay. Yeah, sure. But like, I mean, it's a great way to deal with things, to keep everything in house, stop people kind of exploring. We have to disconnect people from you guys so they don't actually talk. I mean, I just had a lady on the other day, Hallie Kim. I don't know if you've come across her. She's great on Instagram. Okay. And she was deconstructing while her husband was planting a church, and she's kind of dragged in this kind of like pastor's wife, I mean, she owned by the church via the pastor, that kind of weird dynamic. And she's like deconstructing. She's like, I don't really give a shit about this stuff, but like those dynamics, she talks about how when they kind of like were asked to leave by the prior church, they were kind of like basically given like a payoff, and it was like, look, if you just go, we'll give you your severance, no one needs to know, you're just not allowed to talk to anyone, you're not allowed to connect with anyone. And then they left, and then they were told that everyone in the church, so they've been told, don't reach out to anyone, or we'll make an issue for your severance. And they've got kids and shit. And then you've got on the flip side, you have the church then going to everyone in the congregation, they left, they're like, they've got some issues, they requested, no one talks to them, no one connects with them, and it's like, this is perfect. It's crazy, but it's perfect. It's a great scenario for like how to keep this all bubbled in. Everyone stays safe. Everyone stays, and that's what they think, and some of it, I would have thought like that before as well. Oh, we got to stay safe, right?
Yeah, it's the original cancel culture.
Yeah,
it's like, yep, we're canceling you. You didn't exist, or everything you've done doesn't matter. Please leave quietly because you're going to hurt the church, or you're going to hurt this. I'm like, it's on top of everything else that the evangelical church put on top of me, like the weight of my neighbor's salvation, or like the creeping, I don't know, like the worry of raising my 2 children so they don't be heathens and run off into the world. On top of that, you're tasked with also carrying the burden of the church that you're leaving, the safety of that church. Like, please leave quietly, because if you don't, things could go bad. I'm like, I don't care. I am leaving. I don't care about this. No, you have to. Like, oh my God. And then the same thing. Like, what was really shitty was that we heard that one of the pastors that we were working with at the time was going around telling everyone, like, raising questions about us. I'm like, dude, you were part of the conversation. You know exactly why we left. Don't starting rumors or whatever. So yeah, it's just really, really unfortunate. I know Adrian has a lot more words he wants to say. I can tell by he's biting his bottom lip.
No, I'm trying to. No, I'm like, what's funny is, like, on one hand, I like don't even want to. Sometimes you don't even want to like talk about. It's like because people want to talk to you about church, and whenever you interact with your old friends from your old church, all I want to do is talk about the church, and you're kind of
what church are you at now? What church are you at? I'm like,
right,
God,
and
make me feel better. Make me feel comfortable that you left this church, so I at least know you're going to another church, so I can reframe everything and feel safe.
Yeah, or it's like it reminds me of like if you leave jobs and then you go back and interact with your old coworker, all they do is like talk about the old job because that's all they know. But you like don't really give a fuck about that old job anymore. And that's the way it feels like sometimes. Even now, looking back, I'm like, dude, I almost like you don't even want to like think about all of the ways that you were kind of fucked over. And it's like, I know for me, it was, and I'm a feeler, Phil. I'm like, in this Dirty Rotten dynamic, Josh Link is the one that like gives zero fucks. Like, he's just prickly. He's the spicy meatball in the dynamic. And I'm like the feeler, and I'm the people pleaser, and I'm the one who's like constantly overthinking. And so for me, going to church every Sunday was like torturous. And it wasn't torturous because I was exhausted. It wasn't torturous because we were overworked. It wasn't torturous because I didn't sit with my family every week, which that also happened, and it's a common thing in evangelical spaces. It was torturous because I would stand there and they would play the songs, or I would lead the songs, and I would feel nothing. And you just feel nothing, and you're like, this isn't doing it. I don't know what it is. And then it makes you second guess yourself, like, well, fuck, like, have I not been preaching the gospel to myself? Am I missing some sort of doctrinal? You like that one, Link?
Yeah.
That one
brought back some stuff, dude. Yeah. Jeez, preaching the gospel to yourself. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so it's like, is there something that I am cognitively missing that is causing me to have an emotional disconnect right now? And when you can't place the source of a discomfort, there's nowhere you can go, because you can't think your way out of it. You can't feel your way out of it. And all it does is just leave you with this like zombie malaise where you're just like trudging through motions every single week. And you don't feel any sort of fulfillment in what you do. And as soon as like the things start to connect and you're like, oh, I feel this way because it's bullshit. Or it's like, I feel this way because I don't believe that.
Yeah.
Then it's like the dominoes have been hit, man. And like all these things just start crumbling. And I think that's what happened for me. And there was a conversation with the pastor that we worked with. And he was like, hey man, it sounds like you're like dabbling in universalism or something. And it's like, and it's like, sounds like you're questioning all your beliefs. And he's like, that's totally fine if you're just a lay attender. We encourage that. He's like, but if you're like a paid staff member, like on staff, that's really not something that we really want or looking for.
That's so funny.
Yeah. And it was basically like a tighten up or get out. And he was like, do you need to go on a sabbatical? And I was like, you know what? Let's do like an indefinite sabbatical. And so that's what happened. And I think maybe for you, Josh, I'll let you speak to your end, but my understanding from you is more of like a physical burnout that then turned into this sort of like theological deconstruction. I don't know.
Mine was that I to a fault, I put my head down. I just do work. And I was putting in like 6 to 7 hour days on Sunday mornings, dreading like the drive home. And even for the first couple months after I left the church, driving on the same road brought those same feelings of just like, oh fuck, I'm so tired. But yeah, so I worked a lot just getting all the tech side and the worship music and all that jazz set up. But what kind of triggered it for me was getting hired at this place where I work now, and Adrian works too. And the first day there, they told us something. They're like, we hired you because you're you, and no one else can do the job that you're going to do. And we don't want to only like give you a job. We want to like invest in you as a person. Mm-hmm. And so I'm hearing this like Fortune 500 multi-million-dollar company telling me that I'm worth something. But the church that I've been to for 20 plus years told me that I'm dirty rags, or as Matt Chandler put it, like a rose that's been passed around. Who wants this nasty rose? I'm like, wait, am I worth something or am I not worth something?
Right.
So in the middle of this new hires thing, I'm like having like this like theological debate in my head. I'm like, what the hell is happening with me?
They're like, sir, are you okay? Are you weeping right now? Are you
like
weeping
the class
into a
ended
Bible?
3 hours ago. I'm just like staring at the window. I haven't moved.
Like, Josh, you
Never
gotta go.
felt so accepted and loved.
Yeah, it was a lot of emotions to process. Exactly for that reason. Like they accept me more than I accept myself. Like, and so that was a big turning point for me. And with Adrian, we joke about this for a while, but it's not wrong. Adrian, it in like his style and the things he likes and the way he creates things or the clothes he wears, Adrian is like always ahead of the curve. So much so that we had a friend that went to college in Virginia, and Adrian was talking about how the friend came down. He's like, oh, but we don't have any quote unquote hipsters in Virginia. And Adrian's like, well, give them 5 years and they'll be dressing like I am. And like, no shit. Like 5 years later, they all look like Adrian Gibbs, but much whiter. So when Adrian started having those thoughts and like talking to me about it, I'm like, that sounds interesting, but I was honestly so overworked. I didn't have time to think about it. When my wife said, hey, since we've been married, at that time is maybe 6 years we've been married, we have never gone to church as a family of 4. I'm like, okay, that put the brakes on everything. I'm like, okay, I need to stop. This is ridiculous. And then I started realizing like when everything slowed down, I started realizing I don't like this. I don't like working and hating Sundays. By that time, worship music had grown so old, and it's so like, it was like a callus on my hand. It was like a scab. I didn't even want it anymore. The thing that I enjoyed so much in church, the music, I couldn't stand anymore. And then everything that Adrian said to me before, I'm like, what if what Adrian's saying tracks? And then that's when Adrian and I started reaching out to like people that we heard in staff meetings we shouldn't be talking to. And we started talking to them, like, and one big friend, like the huge help for Adrian and I was Danny Prada, who I worked with at a church before, but he has a church here in South Florida called Heartway. And he was super helpful because he's already on that Christian mystic stuff. He's bringing in like imams to his church. He's bringing in Episcopal priests to preach. He's quoting all these desert fathers and mothers that we've never heard of. And he was so helpful to see someone who was like sort of connected to where we were in the church realm, like in like the church plants, but he was theologically and like spiritually somewhere completely different. Like, it was like reaching out my hand out of the water, like, pull me out, Danny. And he's super buff too. So he could definitely pull me out.
He's like, and then he like curled you like a bunch of times.
Yes. It was so comforting.
And then like chugged a protein shake.
Yes.
It was like tasting cooking that like you had only ever eaten like burnt steak, like a crispy charred steak. And then you had it like for the first time as like medium rare. And you're like, holy shit, this is how this could taste. I had no idea. Wow. And so hearing him preach, I think someone like Rob Bell was helpful because he was accessible and he was the first name that I had thought of. And then someone like Danny Prada for us was also like someone who you want to be able to find someone that is like adjacent to where you are, because you feel like there's like some language that you can kind of jive with. Because if you don't recognize anything, it's just not likely to get you very far. You know, and it's the same reason why like the content we do, it's not for everybody, because some people don't have our trauma. Some people haven't been like screwed over the way we've been screwed over, or like so for them, it's kind of like the jokes you say and the stuff you say, it's fine, I guess, but it doesn't like land. It doesn't click. Yeah, exactly. But when you hear someone who came from where you came from, and now they are just on this kind of different wavelength, you feel seen and you feel like you're not, you know,
crazy.
You're not losing it. Yeah. So.
Yeah. No, that's man, it's heavy stuff. It's a lot, right? It must, you know, you talk about, you know, starting a podcast where you can just be yourself, do yourself. I mean, there's a whole nother level when generally speaking, when people go through deconstruction, there's this component. You know, I often use the analogy of like putting on a mask to get to be around people in your community, your church, your pastors, whatever. So that you can receive acceptance and love, right? So you have to put on this mask that says, yep, no, I'm still an evangelical. I'm still a good Christian boy, you know, whatever it is. And then you get home, you take that mask off and you feel like utter shit. The mask is glowing from acceptance and love, but you got nothing, right? Because you weren't there.
It wasn't you.
It was something else. And it's a whole nother level when you're involved in leadership and all that stuff, because there is no tolerance, right? It's like the thing of, if you're a layperson, you can dabble. We don't mind too much if you read about universalism and go off the deep end and leave like, we'd rather not, but like, one person, layperson, doesn't really matter. Maybe a tithe check or something, but it's not going to destabilize the church and screw it up.
Right.
You're not allowed to do that. You are too influential. Everyone's eyes are on you, you know, whatever else. You're teaching people, you're a role model. You're like, no questions, no slip ups, no being yourself. If that's who you are, we don't want to know. The difference in like being able to then step out into doing the podcast, like how did you guys find that? Like that must have been like just like walking on like water almost, like, you know, like.
Yeah, it was well, okay. I'm not going to speak for you, Link, but I'm going to speak for you. I feel like it was easier for you than it was for me.
Well, I would say that you and I mean, not to the extreme we do it now, but we always had, like you said before, these side conversations and this kind of like laugh, haha, look, this is really dumb, but we're in it.
Right.
And so I told you, like we were talking about starting the podcast, like it's just going to be an extension of what we already did. And yeah, it was easier for me because I thought like I wasn't, it still am if I allow myself, so angry at the time that I gave to the church and the way I was treated. I'm not a people pleaser, like specifically, but I love people. And if I give you like all this time and energy and trust and loyalty, and you just kind of spit in my face and turn around, I'm like, oh my God, like I'm just going to mail you some gorilla dung, which you can do at gorilladung.com. I'm not shitting you. You
Wait,
can
are
do
you serious?
gorilla,
This is your
giraffe.
side hustle, right?
You are shitting us in a way.
Exotic shit.
Yes, it's definitely not my side hustle. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's gorilla dung.
Yeah. And gorilla dung and giraffe dung and lion dung all happens to look exactly the same.
Like my dung.
Yeah. Shipped from the same house.
Yeah. Your wife's like, Josh, why are you eating that? And it's like, it's a giraffe dung day.
I just have so many prunes in my pantry. Yeah. Prunes all the time. But yeah, I think it was easier for me just to go, hey man, I'm in, let's just do this. But like Adrian needs a process. So I let him process.
And I think for me is like, I was the worship leader for a long time and that's all I ever did. And so when you're the worship leader, I wouldn't just sing songs. I would also kind of share my heart. Like that one, Link. I'm going to try and just throw as many tropes. I'm going to throw as many tropes your way and see what.
I'm like stabbing myself in the leg every time you trigger me, bro. I'm fucking bleeding.
Turn it into a drinking game.
Yeah. Yes. That's what that is. That's actually tequila.
If you're listening along at home and you hear like some like horrific cliche, you've got to take a shot or something.
Yeah.
So like an hour to go, so people are going to get hammered.
You're completely
the closest liquid next to you. So I'm not responsible if whatever you're drinking.
Or if it's actually consumable by human standards.
Yeah, who cares?
And so I would just like talk. And so I think part of it is I have always been very careful with my words. And when the way that a person perceives you rides on the words that you choose, and if a person's like eternal soul rides on the way you formulate a theological stance via prayer or something, or a gospel presentation, like if you believe that the words you say can be responsible for a person's eternal salvation, then you better fucking pay attention to what you're going to say right now. And that's what I would do. I would actually like rehearse my prayers like before we would pray. Like I would rehearse these things because I'm like, does this track? Does this line up? Have I checked all my fucking boxes? And then I would go, okay, great. You're good to do it. And then I wonder why like I would have anxiety whenever I would go up, or why I would, you know, and that doesn't just go away even just because you're not in church. And if anything, it can be just as easy when you step into like progressive Christian spaces to be like, oh shit, I wonder if that's actually something I can say now too. You know, there is a sort of like similar fundamentalism that can be found in certain corners of progressive Christianity for sure. Absolutely. Anywhere you go. And so I think going into the podcast is kind of like, who's going to hear this? How many foreskin jokes can I make? How many times can I say fuck? Like, can I say these things? And I think what helped us was telling ourselves that like, no one's going to listen to this shit. You're like, there's no way anyone's going to listen to this. Like, we're two nobody church planters from like BFE in South Florida, like in a state that everyone in the world hates. Like, why would anyone listen to our shit? Funny. And so then when it happens, it actually enforced it, because it was kind of going like, I say, it made me feel better, because I was like, I've been acting like I don't give a fuck because no one was going to listen to this, and people started listening. So why change that now? You know? And so it actually was like reinforcing me to feel like I can speak my mind. And then the overwhelming response we get from a lot of folks is like, thank you for being honest. They're like, I think you're going to hell, but thank you for being honest. Like, I think you're lost, but thank you for cursing as much as you do. That's funny. I think that says something about what people are maybe looking for.
Yeah,
you know?
I think so. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think like when you were saying that, Adrian, you were like rehearsing your prayers before you got up to lead worship. Like, I don't think, and I think why it's more difficult for you, because I don't think the evangelical church is set up for overthinkers or oversharers. And that's definitely more you than me. Because everything has to be so quick and has to be, oh, this is the answer for that. This is the answer for that. Blah, 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 blah.
Pre-approved company line.
Yes. And so you have to just be able to pivot and absorb things and just spit them out as fast as possible. And so when you turn on a podcast and these two idiots are just talking about stuff that kind of connects with you in a way that you really haven't voiced to anyone, because the church doesn't, the mold for the church doesn't allow you to be yourself. I mean, you can bring aspects of yourself, come just as you are, but come only bringing these things.
Come just as you are, and then immediately change that.
Yes. And the other things we can pray about, because you need God for those things. But I think that's what people have told us. It's just that they feel recognized, they feel seen by whatever we say or something we share, or some conversation we'll have in the DMs or some email they'll send us. And I think to me, that's the word I've used a lot is freeing. Like there's all this talk about feeling freedom in the love of Jesus, or feeling freedom under God's law or whatever, living under God's authority. But I experienced none of that from my early teens till I was 32, 33. I was telling my dad this like last weekend. I experienced guilt because I wasn't saving enough people, as Jimmy next to me was. I felt guilt because anytime I looked at anyone or said anything, no. Oh, hold on. I have to give a hug to my daughter. Go to bed. Good night.
Aw.
Good night.
You're making something. Anytime I did anything, there was some insane eternal consequence. And imagine putting that on someone who has all these hormones raging through their body. And then you tell them sex is wrong. Don't ever look at a woman. Like, but they're everywhere. The women are everywhere. And so there's just so much of this guilt and weight put on you that I never felt that freedom. And so it's kind of cyclical, because you feel, like you said, Adrian, you're not preaching the gospel enough to yourself. Am I not feeling the freedom because I'm not doing enough? But they look like they're feeling freedom in worship, or they're feeling freedom when they preach, or Matt Chandler conquered cancer, or John Piper's fucking the old ghost from Christmas Carol, whatever the hell he is. I don't know. He's from the Muppet Christmas. You ever see that one?
It's funny, yeah.
Where they come over in the chains.
Yeah. Right.
Marley and Marley. Yeah.
Marley. Man.
Fucking John Piper. So you see all these people in the Christian scene with this freedom, like, but I don't feel that. So I need to try harder. I need to write a worship song. I need to go to this conference. And like, it's a really good analogy you had, Phil. Is like, you take that mask off. The mask feels good. When you step into those spaces, you feel great. Like, oh yeah, we can sing the same songs, we can say the same words, we can wear the same t-shirts. But I vividly remember leading worship at churches, like taking my acoustic guitar off, the pastor comes on to preach, and waiting for the entire worship team to leave so I could sit in the green room and just lie on my back on the cold floor. And I sat there and I'm like, why are you doing this, Josh? I'm like, so I could, like I said out loud, so I could feel something. So I could feel the cold tile on me, because I felt nothing. Yeah. I felt no freedom. All I felt was just guilt. Yeah. And then on this side of things, like, maybe I feel too much freedom sometimes, we say, but like, that's how I feel. And I feel like there's a community of people out there who appreciate that freedom and then enjoy it with us. I was able to go to Nashville with my family about a month ago. We got a cabin up in the mountains, and we're just kind of doing our own thing. And while we drove through Nashville, I was actually able to meet up with someone who knows us from the podcast. Oh, nice. And so just talking to them, I texted Adrian afterwards, like, man, if no one else listened to it, our podcast was just for this guy, because just the way he described how we've helped him, which sounds so dumb and self-inflating to say. Like, oh, we helped them, but I don't do anything.
Look at us.
I record in my garage.
Like, I just make memes on my phone every day, all day.
Amazing.
But in the times when we get too many evangelical people saying you're being negative, you got to edify people or whatever, I just think about those experiences, conversations where people are like, man, I needed that. I've re-listened to a podcast. Like, how do you re-listen to something that's 2 hours long? That's insane.
Right. Yeah.
But freedom is just the theme of what I've been feeling ever since 3 years ago.
You guys managed that, like, because there's a very real dynamic of being in a public space where everyone and their mom wants to give you feedback, and a huge amount of it will be positive, of course. Like, generally speaking, people are just enamored by stuff of people they're following, right? I'm always amazed by people that follow you, like, consistently hate everything. And you're like, dude, what is wrong? Like, if you don't like McDonald's, don't eat there every day and complain.
Stop eating it.
But I have to tell them how much they suck.
But there is that dynamic of you're always going to get people that are bitching, complaining. Like, how do you guys navigate that? Because, like, that's probably a dynamic when you were leading in a church. You know, you also have that dynamic, right? Oh, the worship music's too loud. I don't like drums, or, you know, whatever. I don't know. I didn't do worship, so
you weren't wrong. I was all right.
I don't like drums.
The worship music, so but you know, like, that's one dynamic, but it's a whole nother dynamic when it's almost like it's your baby, it's your thing, you know what I mean? Like, there's a whole nother level probably of I don't mean pride in a negative sense, but just a pride of like, oh, I'm doing good work, I'm helping people. But there's a whole nother work of like, yeah, I suck. Or you know, if you're overthinking things, like, you know, you get that kind of Brene Brown like vulnerability hangover after the podcast is up, and you're like,
yep,
oh, what did I say? Oh God, what are they going to think? Or like, do you guys navigate that well, or is that something that you kind of have to like work through with each podcast, work through with each post, and you post a meme and go, oh, am I going to be able to brace for the tsunami of hopefully positive, but also the shitstorm that comes?
I'll speak from the kind of like the social media piece. I think there is a distinct demographic, and it's usually like father, husband, like an Instagram bio that's like pastor, father, husband with like a cross and a heart. Like, that's usually the demographic that gives us the most shit. We do find people who follow us, and then all they do is they're like, hey, you should try being positive for a week. Just be positive for a week and see what happens, you know?
So funny.
Or people who are like, why are you guys so mad? Or like, hey, like, and I can actually get by with just completely dismissing people like that. Cause I'm like, we are so kind of like diametric that there's almost like, it doesn't make a difference to me. Right. The thing that hurts the most is somebody who found you in the beginning,
right,
and was like, oh my God, thank you for what you're doing. You guys are incredible. The work you're doing is so helpful. And then I'll post something like Black Lives Matter, and then that person who's like an All Lives Matter person will be like, I can't believe that you don't believe this, this, and this. And then people who like maybe have stuck around with you for like 6 months. We've only been around for 8 months, so it's not that long. But
that's a whole life, though.
It's a whole life, yeah, exactly. So people who've been with you for 6 months, and then you post something, and then that's when I feel like, oh fuck, because you do feel like, what did I do? You know, like, what did I do to make you stop liking me? and I'm the one that, like Link, I would say it's like what, like a 60-40 kind of ratio of like who posts what.
Yeah. And then like, we've even gotten comments like from friends that have known us for a while. And this one I had to work through, and I talked to Adrian about it. But they told us, why don't you have people on the podcast that don't agree with you? And at the time, like, it's a good idea. And then I was talking to Adrian about it. I'm like, but that's not like, we're not, to go back to something we said it before, it's not apologetics. Like, we're not here to have debate.
Yeah.
Like, we want to bring on people.
Thinking.
Yeah. We want to bring on people that we enjoy talking to.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, it's funny. Kent Dobson says it really well. The loyal soldier. It's like, it's that loyal soldier within you that has the soldier is built out of these Christian ethics and way of thinking that sometimes sneaks up back on you. Like, well, we have, if we have someone who says the McDonald's sucks, we have to have someone that says McDonald's is great. Like, no, I just want to talk about fast food in general. I don't give a shit about what anyone thinks. So yeah, that's something like that I work through with Adrian talking. Like we'll text each other pictures of someone who commented something on the Instagram, or like, whatever, or okay, or the best ones are when someone says something and we just go, just let the comments deal with it. And people that follow us are like, no.
It's the best.
It's the best.
Yeah.
Honestly,
the bad apples
are pretty. I'm like, I've got to
self-policing.
reply to that because I don't want it to get out of hand or whatever. And then like, my wife distracts me. We hang out for a couple hours and I come back and I'm like, oh, they got destroyed. I'm like,
yep.
Nice. Like, people always ask me, why don't you delete comments? I'll delete things if people are specifically attacking people, but that's actually fairly rare. Most people are just wanting to have an intellectual debate or something. And the reason I don't is I'm like, no, I want people to see how bad the other arguments are. And actually, if they turn out to be good arguments, I'll probably learn something. But I know most of them, I've taught them for like a couple of decades. They're pretty bad. And it is like, there's so many people, you'll post like crazy things and then they'll reply and you're like, case in point, I mean, I don't even have to reply. people can just look at that and go,
you got
that's what Phil's talking about. I actually thought when he posted that example, that was extreme. No one's really like that. Holy shit. First comment is interesting.
Yep.
You know, like
right.
it's crazy. Do you find yourselves, you know, this is an interesting dynamic when you've got like multiple people, I guess, but like, you know, you're saying 60-40 social media, you're posting different things, like, and then there is the dynamic of certain stuff, right? You've got people tracking with you for like 6 months, and they're tracking with you because they're going through a deconstruction of faith and all sorts of different stuff. And then, you know, Black Lives Matter kicks off to a whole new degree again around, you know, different police brutalities that are being more televised, advertised, it's viral. And so, you know, as many people did, you go, I'm going to post about it on social media. Now there's a whole stay in your lane, all that shit, right? But like, do you on some level go, hold on, will this divide people? Is this what we're going to talk about? Maybe that's a bit of an extreme example because, you know, is probably quite clear for most people what you should be doing in that scenario. But do you sit and think, should we go after this area? Is that going to be divisive to the point where it's going to lose us influence of helping people? Or is that stuff you think about, or do you just kind of throw stuff on and just see what happens?
Well, now
do you run it by each other? Or
please.
I'm just intrigued as to like, how do you, because for me, I do that internally and then I go, fuck it. And then post, because who cares? It's just me. But I don't know if Adrian does, who cares? Fuck it. I mean, it's probably not going to hurt me. Maybe it's screw over Josh's life. Upload. You know, like, do you guys have that dynamic? Because it's big in me. Like, I'm constantly like, I'll pick my battles, you know, like.
Yeah. I think it's part of that where you're kind of going like, am I saying something or implying something that's going to marginalize a group of people? But I feel like for the most part, we have a way of like, Josh and I are on such a similar wavelength that it's kind of like, if you say something, if he posts something, whether or not I would have posted that, or if I even found it or whatever, it's almost like, but this is who we are. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like the whole thing is that this whole podcast has always been equal parts heavy and light. It's like, we are a mixed bag. Like we're a potluck, dude. Like if it nourishes you, freaking grab it. And if it doesn't serve you, then just leave it on the table.
Right.
And I think that we would be remiss to hide a piece of yourself or to feel something and not say it because of who you're going to annoy or irritate. Because if you do that in this platform, where else can you ever be honest? Because we've been doing that for our entire life, you know? And so it's one of those things where it's like, we are not for everybody. You know, there's a group of people who they don't like loudmouthed, like sarcastic, cursing idiots. And that's fine. Like then you might not be your bag. And there's also a group of people who are like super pissy, burn the whole thing down. This is all fucked. There is zero credence in any sort of religion or faith tradition. Like, fuck it all, fuck everything. And we're not for them either, because there is a tilt towards a spiritual approach to life. And just knowing that like the people who resonate with us will probably be okay with hearing this aspect of us as well. And the people who if this is going to put you off, like, then we would have put you off at some point down the road.
You're not going to survive long anyway.
Yeah. I don't know, Josh, you want to add to that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've said it on the podcast. It's not new, but Adrian is definitely the wordsmith. So as far as like posting stuff, I'll send him stuff like, dude, you can caption this. The picture is hilarious, but I'm sure you have a good caption.
Turn it into something magical.
Yeah. But yeah, we've known each other for so long, and we're in a band, and we did like 2 tours and driven in vans together, and our wives are really good friends. Our kids hang out with each other. Like, we've done life. Take a shot.
Yeah.
Nice.
We've done life a lot with each other. And so I know if I see something, like, even if it's not related to the podcast, like, I have to send it to Adrian because he'll die laughing. Right. Or we're just, the church did a lot of good for us. And one of the things was that, like, we have a good group of friends that we play music with that we all grew up in church playing music with. And like musically, we just know where each other's going. And even like our friendship wise, like, we have like a group text thread, and we're just been telling the same jokes for years.
Sure.
And I'm of the mind, like, I still want to harness that feeling like no one's listening to us, despite, like, I looked up like how many podcast downloads we've had on our latest podcast. It's like I thought we would get 3. And like, I know. What is happening? And so to me, it's still like our baby, and I don't care. If you don't like it, great. If you like it, awesome. Or like, it's just there for people to enjoy.
Yeah.
And I think like using that word freedom again, like I feel free just to be myself, because this is the first time in 30 some odd years where I can, like, publicly, not like behind closed doors or in a text thread or sharing a funny picture, where I can say how I feel. And Adrian and I had a discussion. We're like, well, what if we say something and then like a couple months later or a year later, we don't believe that thing? We're like, well, even better, then the podcast is just a snapshot of who we were at that moment. And we can always go back to it and make fun of it, or just like, oh yeah, I don't agree with that anymore. And I think, to me, I appreciate when people do that, because then you could see, you don't just get like the pinpoints of who a person is, you get to draw like the lines of how they got there. And that journey of someone's thoughts is so interesting. And like a person who is huge for Adrian and I, I'll give him a shout out. He's kind of not big. I don't know if you've heard of him, Pete Holmes. Not a big name.
Pete.
Yeah, if people don't know about him, he's kind of like
Pete Holmes? He's like a really niche DIY guy.
But he was, Adrian and I have both been following him for a while, and just seeing how he went from like church boy to his wife cheating on him to pursuing comedy full time, across his podcast, his book, and his show. Just watching his life, I'm like, that's what I want to do for everyone else, is show them where I am, where we are, and just let them track if they want.
And we try and do that too, because on podcasts, and one thing we talked about was like, because you see a lot of podcasts and they talk about a topic, and like they kind of pick a topic and like, we're going to take this on, and that's totally fine. And some of the best kind of growth that I've had has been from like finding a topic that I was interested on and listening to that podcast. But I think for us, even then, we always try and approach every topic, even because we do that. But we always try to approach it as like, this is just like our perspective today. Yeah. This isn't some sort of comprehensive, definitive view. And it's also completely limited, because we can't even begin to experience people who have suffered in different ways, or who have experienced different facets of a particular issue. And so we always say, like, our hope is that we can bring another person on here who can talk about this in a completely different way. And even if 40% of the same stuff is hashed out, the other 60% is going to be completely new. Yeah. And if we can double back on ourselves in, years from now and go, yeah, that was real stupid, but just take it in stride, and I think we're trying to do that now, looking at our Reformed days and our evangelical days and our megachurch days and our Southern Baptist stuff. I am kind of like, might as well post something that you feel, if it's something you truly feel. If it was like trying to like project some sort of bullshit persona, or like try and like pick up some sort of faux rage against something that I truly don't feel connected to, but I'm just like trying to like give the people what they want. Well, at that point, that's like a circle jerk, and that's not something we have been about from the get-go. But it's almost like, if this is the way we feel, then just say it. And if we're wrong, then we can change our mind in real life, and then it will coincide with changing our mind on something we say or post. You know?
And I think when you said that, Adrian, that reminded me of, so the church is really quick to share their wins publicly. Mm-hmm. Everything's out in the open. This many baptized, this much raised for the building fund, whatever. Anytime anything bad comes up, shh, be quiet. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I don't want to do that here. Like, if we have wins, celebrate them. If we have losses, celebrate them. Like there is like, there are bad things that happen, but there are, like, you can take it, like you said, Adrian, you can take it in stride. If something bad happens, or you don't agree with yourself, talk about it, own up to it, work through it. That's humanizing to someone who doesn't understand you. And I think that's a big disconnect for the church, is like, you hear about all these scandals, especially in South Florida, man, there's some weird shit. There have been people that we've done events with that have gotten arrested for child pornography while being teachers at a local school and working in youth groups with multiple churches.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy.
And come to find out, like, this was known about when he was working over here, but this person at this church never talked to this person at this church. Mm-hmm. So they allowed this dude to go around and do what he wanted to. And so when you see people who are looking at the church, like, I don't want to be a part of this. Like, you look all pretty and you have fucking pyro on your stage for Lord knows what reason. But the second any shadowy stuff comes up, it's the darkest shit ever, because you guys don't deal with anything.
Yeah. Right.
And so coming out of that, we don't want to be that. It's just, here's all our dirty laundry, take it or leave it.
Yeah. I'd rather err on the side of oversharing. So people know right from the get what they're into, what they're about to get, you know, and I want you to know pretty early on that you're probably not going to stick around. Have you ever, Phil, maybe you probably have you ever had someone follow you and you like, and you look at them or you look at some other stuff and you totally judge a book from its cover like an asshole, and you're like, you are not going to be around. Okay. I do that all the time, and it's probably a bad thing. But
you look at the Instagram profile, right? And it says pastor, father, husband,
daughter of the king. You're like, oh God, you're not going to like us for too much longer.
Yeah. Proverbs 31 wife, you know.
Yeah.
But that's have you guys read Leah Remini's Troublemaker? It's about her coming out of Scientology. It's a cool.
No, but I watched her short little documentary on it.
Okay, yeah. So she starts her book and she's like, let me tell you all my shit. She's like, because the second you say anything about Scientology, they will literally, and they have kept records of everything. You have to tell them in detail everything you ever do wrong. And if you don't, people in Scientology will report on you. So they still know everything you've ever done wrong. Because it's a sin not to report someone because it doesn't help them. They have to be helped. And so there's this huge list of like, well, they slept with this person and they cheated there and they cheated on their taxes and they didn't do this and they lied there. And it's just like laundry list. So she's like, let me tell you, this is who's writing this book. And she just lists so much shit. And you're like, whoa. And she's like, yeah, I'm flawed. All right, let's move on. And it's like, there's nothing you're going to find out in this memoir anymore that's going to like be like, well, I'm closing the book now, right? And it's like, what's your point? Like, you know what I mean? There's still plenty here to be explored. And it is weird, the church dynamic, you know, I mean, I was reading one of the, they did like a closed survey on churches that basically had different sex scandals. And they basically asked like, why didn't you report this? Why did you let this person just gracefully leave quietly out the back door and then go on and do the same thing, right? The youth pastor, he's only got one profession. He might not get a good reference, but he's going straight into the next church and becoming a youth pastor. And again and again and again, it was, we didn't want to have to deal with this scandal. We didn't want everyone to know that we had this thing going on.
Right.
So
right.
This
it was our
public
problem.
image thing of like, we just don't want people to know. We'll happily move them over there. We'll send them as a missionary. We'll put them in charge of the nursery. Like, God knows what people are doing. But as long as it's not, we look bad. And it is like you're saying, like nobody actually believes that's, well, I don't know, maybe we do believe it. I probably believed it for many years. These people at the top are perfect, and that's why we're so upset when they fall, and that's why we beat ourselves up all day every day, right? Because the youth pastor telling me not to watch porn, I bet he never gets an erection, and I'm like 28 hours a day got an erection, you know, like it's ridiculous. But everyone knows the 22-year-old youth pastor is watching porn and masturbating half the time, especially if he's fixated on it the way that most youth pastors are.
Yes.
And so like it's this weird dynamic where we beat ourselves up, we see the person as perfect, but all these people end up falling somehow. And so it's just this reality of like, can we be honest? Can we talk about just life as it is, good, bad, ugly? Especially recognizing that a lot of the time the good, the bad, and the ugly are definitions there are all kinds of skewed anyway. I think it's really important to do, you know, what you guys are doing. We're
getting ready to record another episode, and for certain episodes we like to ask the bad apples, as we call them, to submit like their own stories on what we're going to be talking about. And one submission came in today, and it's specifically about like the church family, like the dynamic of like church friendships and the family that's created through the church. But she mentions how she would open up to friends when they asked, how are you doing? And she would just kind of spill everything out, and they'd go, all right, cool. And like, what? It's super interesting for a religion that follows this guy, Jesus, who by all accounts is like a very personable person who was with the lowest of low. And then when he got to the highest of high people was like kicking their ass with like a whip he made, with a handmade whip, which is like super badass. For a religion that follows that guy, they don't seem really concerned with like the person of you. It's always like a image they have to project. Joe Lumen said it. We had her on. That podcast actually goes live pretty soon. But like, you're not protecting the church, you're protecting the brand.
Absolutely.
And when she said that, like, that clicked in my head. That's why they wanted us to leave quietly, because the image had to be kept up, because the brand had to be kept up.
Because you can't be the church with like the universalists on staff.
Yeah, you can't be the church where 2 of the 3 people who helped plant it left.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It has to be, they need to leave quietly because it can't be a problem with the church. It has to be a problem with them. And if you don't say anything, then at least you don't know what the problem is. It doesn't, pinpoint to one specific
Phil,
thing.
are you familiar with what's happening at Menlo Church in California? You heard anything about that?
I don't think so. I might have heard about the situation and not the name.
So I'm sure I'm going to get the details wrong, but it's a very extreme example of what we're talking about. It's the this one. So there's this pastor. I forget what his name is. He has 2 sons, and so we'll call him son number 1. Came out and said that there has been someone in the church who works in children's ministry who has confessed to multiple pastors and to myself as son 1 of the pastor that they have sexual attraction to kids.
Wow.
I have gone through all avenues to get this addressed, but no one in the church wants to, so I'm taking it public.
Wow.
So Menlo is shutting it down. Mm-hmm. People in the church are going crazy. Come to find out, the person who confessed having a sexual attraction to children was son number 2.
I saw this coming.
Who is the pastor of the children's ministry.
Wow.
And why son number 1 is not getting listened to, because son number 1 is transgender and is married to a transgender woman. And so they are the outcast of the family.
By the way, can we address how much of a nightmare this pastor, the senior pastor, is living right now as I presume, fairly evangelical or some sort of like, you're like,
you're 2 for 2,
not
homie.
Doing well, right?
Yes.
Like, he's like scratching his head looking at that. What is it? The Timothy passage where it's like, all leaders should have like a family that's in check and they are above reproach. It's like, God damn it. Like what do I do with this?
Yeah. And
oh my gosh.
So come to find out, they thought the way to keep son number 2 in check was to basically put him in therapy, which was keep him interacting with children on a church basis as a way of therapy for his sexual attraction to kids. What that
for
implies,
fear that he might be, sorry,
yes. What that implies is that all the parents unknowingly sign their kids up for this weird ass pedophilia therapy.
Yeah.
And so now all the parents are blowing up their social medias, and the church has said 0 things about it.
Yeah.
0. It's huge.
Deleting everything that anyone says.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a weird thing as well, because you use that word therapy, right? But we all know that this is not on any level any form of qualified form of therapy. This is
no one in this church is
church therapy, right?
Yeah,
this
exactly.
is like, I'm a
They're all
pastor.
pastors.
I know all things about therapy and can deal with all kinds of mental health issues, especially something as complex as pedophilia, right? Which is like weirdly, like, I mean, it's such a complex spectrum of different issues and stuff to be playing with in a kid's Sunday school, right? Like,
yeah,
dude. It's hard to do in a dedicated like rehab facility. Like, let me come and do group therapy and one-on-one therapy. Let me like revisit your trauma. Let me do some like, self-parenting. Let me do all this stuff. We just send them to Sunday school. You should be figure it out. Like, what?
Where do you justify that? What passage in the older New Testament justifies that behavior?
Well, and it's
grace and forgiveness and all these things that are applicable to my only son. That's the option for my nepotism, inheritance, right? Grace and forgiveness wasn't available to maybe like the first son because he screwed up first, right? And friends or or whatever, right? But like now I've run out of like inheritors. I kind of need to figure out how to keep this one in,
right.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's such a messy, and the thing is, right? We tell these stories, right? And it doesn't shock any of us, right?
Yeah.
It appalls us, it disappoints us, it upsets us, it's heartbreaking, but we're not surprised. We've heard the story again and again and again. It's the system is built to perpetuate this.
Yes.
Intentionally. I'm not saying that the Christian church was built to create pedophiles, to create corruption or whatever, but unintentionally it's clearly creating this again and
it's set up to allow anyone with that slight bent to slide into that position of power and then relish in the applied narcissism of the people. And then you have people who I believe full well know what they're doing and can prey on, like my grandma, who sends them like $30 a month because he's going to send them water that he got from a lake in Israel or some bullshit.
Look, I'm going to send your grandma the water at some point, right? There's been some delivery issues with COVID, but I will get her the water.
She's pissed.
Just tell her to keep the money coming.
You got a bag of Gorilla Dung coming your way, son.
Dude, I will repackage it and sell it as holy dung to your grandma.
Exactly, from the Holy Land.
Yeah, it's
my God.
That stuff is just, I mean, there's
I don't think Adrian and I even started thinking about that until Joe Lumen kind of hopped into our lives. Like just the way she just approaches like the church in general and the way she talks about it and sees it and like, yes to all of these things. Like the system that built this is so beyond just weird and dysfunctional. And the bravery with which she approaches those issues is enviable. Like she just is tenacious. But what's crazy is watching her social media, either her Instagram or her Twitter, the responses back and forth. It's just these people come up and bring these like counterpoints to her, which are not counterpoints. They don't read anything she says.
No.
And it's very typical of the way we were addressed. They don't listen to anything we say. They pick and choose the things that hurt them the most. And like, why are you guys not positive enough? Or why did you say this about penises? Or like, how dare you say Black Lives Matter? How about the blue line? Don't cross the blue line because blue lives matter and cops. I'm like, oh my God, did you not hear anything we said? But yeah.
I think too that's part of it. If you look at the whole system of evangelicalism that we were brought up in, it's completely laced together with fear. And it's this fear of losing your people, which is really losing your money and losing your influence. It's this fear of being perceived as a failure or being perceived as less than a city on a hill, you know? And so it's this sort of fear that drives so much behavior. And I just wanted to like kind of follow what you were saying, Link, because when we spoke to someone like Joe, and you do the same thing, Phil, it's like there are people who are, their bravery is protecting a lot of people.
Yeah.
People who have been like getting shit on, you know, and who have just, Rob Bell puts it, has like the boot of empire on their neck, you know? And when you see that and you see like the way that people like Joe are just being like attacked by complete fucking idiots, like it makes you be like, oh, well then I shouldn't. I mean, if she can be brave, then I can be brave.
It makes you get your gloves off, right? There's few places that I will get my gloves off and start swinging more than Joe Lumen's comments. Like when I see people shitting on it, I'm like, all right, let's do this. I never really engage with argument. I just don't see the point. It's like people coming on your platform going, I wish you spoke German in German. And I'm like, I don't even read what you're saying. Like, and you don't understand English. So why are we having this conversation? Like we are not.
That's amazing.
Like this is such a stupid conversation, you know. It's like people that have Rob Bell on their show to talk about how he doesn't believe the Bible and therefore he's a universalist, and it's like, dude, we are not going to talk about the Bible here. Like, we have total different perspectives. But you see someone like Joe Lumen's comments and they're like, well, you clearly don't know the Bible. I'm like, dude, you are going to get destroyed. She's got like an MDiv, you idiot.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like she understands the Bible. Trust me. Like you do not want to do this. And it is funny when she shows up, right? I mean, it is funny when she's like, okay, let's look at some Bible. And you're like, oh, this is going to be good. This is going to be good. I love it. I love it. She was one of my favorite guests I've ever had on the podcast. I mean,
and what's interesting is amazing. We had her on, and then we had David Hayward, his Naked Pastor.
Naked Pastor, yeah.
And I think they are two sides of the same coin, is that she's like the fiery, I'm going to catch your grenades and throw them back at you. And David is like, just come into the fold. Here's some art. Here's a way to embrace the unknowing. And let's get rid of your labels. And I'm just here to listen. And I was talking to my wife about it. It's so comforting to see people who are like further along in life than us, who have sort of been where we currently are. To see, because what I'm doing and Adrian and I are doing, you can get lost in your head and say, like, oh, I'm pioneering. I'm taking my machete and I'm cutting away the leaves. I'm leading this path. Like, no, people have been on this path before. It's like, okay, good.
Right.
I actually don't want to carry the machete.
A highway, like 100 feet to the left of you.
Yes. Like, great. I don't want to be doing this heavy lifting.
That's funny. You're like, I'm outdoorsy. It's like
the camera like pans out.
You're drinking your own piss. Yeah. There's like an entryway.
There's like literally like a reservoir next to you.
It's like, why are you peeing into that snake? I got to drink out of the snake.
Yeah.
Where did you even find a snake? This is a kid's playground.
So this is a Wendy's.
Yeah. Wow. It's so true. I mean, like someone like Joe, that's a great analogy. I mean, she's like grabbing grenades, hurling them back, running in like with her machete, repurposing it. And like David Hayward is like, let me just hug you and I'll take the shrapnel from that grenade in my back. I mean, he is just happy to take so much crap. And it just, I don't know. I mean, when I talk to him on my podcast, it feels like a lot of it is water off a duck's back. To him, it's like, it is this is German and English. Like, there's not a point in me trying to like talk to you about this. We're talking a different language. You don't understand. Why don't you let your grenades blow up? They won't do anything here because this is my family. I'm protecting them. His art is so, come on in. You're welcome. Everyone else gets riled up and he's like, all right, you be riled up, but everyone else is in here. It's safe. It's friendly. It's inclusive. I mean, it's amazing to understand there's different approaches and there's different seasons. There's different people in different places that need different things.
But we were all told that anyone who isn't at church on a weekend, they're all just sinners. Like just smoking cigarettes, staying up late Saturday night, not taking care of their vocal cords so they can't sing well, not doing their vocal warm-up practices. I thought I was
this is very anyway. I was gonna say this is very specific.
Very specific. I didn't get that. I didn't get that.
Yeah, I got
I was
that
told like people were having orgies and stuff, which I'll be honest, a little bit more envious of orgies than like not doing vocal warm-ups. So
like you're taking communion, like, wait, I could be having an orgy right now? Why the hell am I here?
An orgy sounds terrible to me. Like, I do not need that pressure in my life at all. Like,
but the food spread at an orgy would have to be pretty legit though.
Because you don't want to touch anything. You do not want to eat.
No, I use tongs. I bring my orgy tongs.
Wait, you ever have orgy tongs? That's not something they don't have across the lake.
Dude, I'll send them to you. I got you.
I have way too many.
For $30 a month, we will send you a lifetime subscription of orgy tongs.
Is it like the MeUndies where you get like a new pair of tongs every week?
Yes, right. They're breathable.
They're antimicrobial.
Fuck that means.
Yes.
This is going to be the next Dirty Run podcast starts. It's like, this episode is brought to you by Orgy Tongs.
No context.
None.
Right.
For $9.99 a month, you'll get new Orgy Tongs straight to your door.
That's amazing.
That is crazy. No, I have too many way too intense upbringing in an evangelical world to ever think of an orgy as anything I could even like begin to enjoy. Like way too much shame, way too much like anxiety, fear, all that. I mean, like, dude, I like no. The transition just from going from like having utter shame and hatred of self in masturbation to like, okay, now sex is supposed to be like a porno movie and like the best thing that ever happened and everyone's supposed to be having a great time. Like the thought of like orgy, I'm like, dude, Christians are not ready for that. They
I always
not cope at all. There'd be like just a sea of people with erectile dysfunction or like, premature ejaculation. There's women that are like literally just hating themselves because they've got like a strapless top on. Like, I mean, Christians are not ready for the orgy, I don't think.
Yeah, I always thought, isn't like an orgy just always just like covered in like goat's blood and everyone just worshiping the devil, just having sex with the devil? I feel like I've always just connected Satanism with orgies.
Before the fornication starts, you must summon the dark one.
You have to summon to oversee
Baphomet.
This is everyone else on Sunday at 11 a.m.
They're having crazy
orgies. You're having mimosas.
11 a.m. in the morning.
You ever had like a brunch orgy?
Right. Yeah, that's it.
Mimosa.
You're just
orgy.
like popping raspberries in the mimosa.
From the orgy tongue, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Boop, boop, boop.
Phil, you sound like you're saying orgy tongues.
I'm not going to correct him.
It still works. I'm not trying to correct your accent. I'm just saying
it still works.
It's not my accent. I'm permanently having a stroke, so I just like slur everything.
I think Orgy Tongues is a band name that I think we should go with.
There you go. You can start Orgy Tongues. Yeah, ex-evangelical band, Orgy Tongs.
Dude, could you be more niche? An ex-evangelical punk
it's
band.
An ex-evangelical.
if you guys have proved anything by your like meteoric success, it's like that being a niche podcast, being a niche band, but that's the way to go, right? I mean, no one needs another Coldplay. They want to discover their
They want the Orgy Tongs.
That's it.
And we are here.
Dude, I'm registering the website right now.
Yeah, and our first single,
the domain.
And our first single, instead of Clocks, it'll be Cox by
Yeah,
Clocks is Coldplay. I got you.
Nice.
Good job, man. Good job. Can we just be a Coldplay tribute band?
Yes.
But it's just all expect
orgy themed.
Angelical
Just
orgy themed.
Weird sex theme, yeah.
Oh god.
Isn't that what Coldplay's about anyways? Scientist and all those other songs, right? There's only two I can think of.
Dude,
Yeah,
weird.
good,
I don't
good
listen
work.
to music, so I genuinely am a freak.
Phil
so
just pulled. I get it. No, hey, good for you,
that's
man.
it. So yeah.
But isn't Coldplay like the guys who wrote your national anthem? Don't you guys have that over there? Aren't they?
No, you're mistaken.
You're
That for
thinking
like
U2.
white
You're thinking of
supremacists.
U2.
Oh. Oh my gosh.
There might be
There
a
you go.
crossover. I don't know, but no, that was definitely royalist white supremacy.
Okay,
That's who
gotcha.
wrote our national anthem.
I'm
a Scot as well, so
Oh,
down with the Queen, down with England. Yeah, I'm just joking. I love England. So please keep listening to the podcast.
yeah. Don't say it because your marriage gonna crash and the frames are gonna crash.
Yeah,
Right,
whole
Mark.
office is
Yeah,
gonna come
Mark
down.
Driscoll will show up and kick it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
There we go.
Oh my gosh. How do we get in orgy tongues? Whatever.
How did we not? I mean, how did it take us an hour 40 minutes to get here? That's the
We were
big
You know who you were
being
talking
very
to.
serious.
We were
I
trying
was talking about my trauma. I was silently crying.
I'm gonna give this. This is gonna be subtitled. It's gonna be, podcast number whatever 65 or whatever. Dirty Rotten Church Kids. See, I'm telling you, I'm constantly having some sort of stroke.
No.
Orgy Tongs. Done. It's
Right.
We have to be podcast
Perfect.
69.
No
though.
explanation.
Skip
They're gonna have
all
to
of
wait
them.
an hour and 40 minutes before that makes any sense.
A lot
Better
of
without
buy-in.
context.
Most people
Yeah.
won't. Most people won't. Most people tail off after about 10 minutes. So,
Oh, boy. Especially with us, they're gonna be like, okay, these guys are idiots.
well, I don't know. They might
Next.
be like, finally, Phil's got someone that's like, up for some laughs, or maybe they love the boring. I don't know. It's people find your audience, though, right? It's like you're saying, you be yourself.
That's true.
People find.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's true.
It's funny. So, where do you guys see yourselves? Do you have when you're looking at your journey? Where do you see yourselves right now? Like, you mentioned kind of progressive Christianity. Do you feel like a progressive Christian? Do you feel like, I'm just long gone? I don't associate with Christianity as much anymore. More sort of spiritual. Like, how would you describe where you guys are at?
Josh?
I don't know.
Adrian's like, pass.
I don't
I'm like,
know.
how much time you got? No, yeah, I think I would consider myself maybe like one of the nuns. I'm kind of a nun.
Yeah.
And a dun. I'm a nun dun. And I think it's like I don't really have interest in church. I think it's weird because on one hand, there is something about Christianity that obviously is important to me.
Mm.
Like all of this work is centered around that system and idea. And there is something about the Christ that is deeply resonant with me. Like when Richard Rohr talks about in that book, there is something that's deeply resonant with me about that idea. And so all that language is tethered to Jesus. So there's Christianity somewhere in there. But as far as like, I don't know if I'm like, oh, I'm a mystic Christian, or I'm a progressive Christian, or
Sure.
I'm a, even saying something like I'm spiritual, there are just so many like, we actually talked about this on a previous episode, Phil. It's like, I've spent my whole life drawing lines,
Yeah.
and categorizing doctrine and putting a tag on dogma and telling somebody, where they land theologically in some sort of spectrum. Now it's kind of like, I don't even have time for that. I don't have the bandwidth to even begin to try and like assign myself to something. And the way I think of it is like, if I expressed my beliefs to you and you were like, oh, well, it sounds like you're a progressive Christian. It's like, okay, that doesn't, sure, whatever,
Sure.
I guess you can do that if you want.
It's
It's
like
like
how you
someone
define that. Cool.
Yeah. It's like someone handing you like a clothing catalog and be like, well, if you like those pants, then you'll love this entire ensemble that we have. And you're like, I have no interest in wearing that entire ensemble. That's kind of what it's like for me.
Yeah. No, I get that.
Yeah, and I'd say along the same thought. It's just, hey, whatever. It's no longer like, hey, so what do you call yourself, or where do you go to church? I'm like, no, this is a conversation you're going to need to sit down for, because it's a journey. It's been awesome. If you want to talk about it, great. If you don't want to talk about it, then call me whatever you want to call me. I really don't care. I'd rather go watch wrestling or cook something or go in the pool, I could give a shit. Like we were actually, Adrian and I find ourselves in these situations and we can kind of give each other the look, like this conversation sucks. When people
go get the orgy tongs.
Yes, please. Like they have good intentions and they generally want to know certain things about us, but the conversation, they've come to it already with the intent of trying to pin us down as something, which is fine. But like, don't trick us in with the promise of just hanging out.
Yeah.
To me, that's the most annoying thing. And I think it's annoying for two reasons. One, because I'd rather talk about the person as the person rather than who they pretend to be in church. And also I used to do that too. So it doubly hurts. Like, fuck, man, that's how I used to.
Was that me?
Yeah. It's how I used to sound. So yeah, I mean, who knows? People call us heathens. They don't call us anything.
They don't talk to us
anymore. Yeah, that one's easy.
We don't have friends anymore, Phil.
Yeah,
it's just Josh and you. You're my only two friends now.
Yeah,
you're roped in.
But yeah, I mean that's the other thing. Like I don't have the mental bandwidth to even start to think what those labels mean to me anymore. Because if I do start to think of them, Christian, that label holds a lot more weight than what it used to. Like, because I associate it way more with Jesus. Paul was just a guy who was there. If Matthew, Mark, Luke, John even wrote the Gospels, they're there too. But like Christianity holds a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And to put that on myself, like, I don't even know. But to quote Richard Rohr, like Richard Rohr said, if I was born in India, I'd be a Buddhist. Yeah. If I was born here, I'd be this person. So, I mean, I told my dad that and he didn't like that answer. Like, no, whatever. He's like, God,
even the skies, even the heavens declare the glory of God. You would have been saved if you were elected.
Dude, I wrote a song with those lyrics.
But all those Indians would have just still been doomed.
Yeah, they're all going to hell.
They're all going to hell, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there is something to be said about folks like Kevin Garcia who, like, they call themselves Christian and they are standing in a place of like, I'm going to reclaim this. And like, and Joe said it too. It's like, you don't get to keep the things that saved my life and you don't get to keep the things that I love. Like that doesn't belong to you just because you say it does.
Yep.
And so I wouldn't be surprised if sometime down the road, I'd be okay with trying to reclaim that too.
Sure.
But that's one of those things where it's like, I don't mean, it's like telling you where I'm going to eat one day. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I have no idea, you know, and I try not to think about it too much.
No, it's really the reason I asked. I mean, I'm fascinated by people's journeys and having watched these journeys kind of unfold over the last kind of 8-10 years. Like you can see different patterns emerge, but this is generally speaking one of the kind of later patterns in the research we're doing. I'm hoping to kind of create a bit more trajectory and outline like how people evolve in this journey, at least generally, or at least if we can match that to certain intakes. If you come into this,
are we part of a data set? Hold up, is this a research podcast?
You're not, but I do have a huge amount of people that we're reaching and working with research companies.
I would have been fine with it.
Deconstruct. You can be part. I would love that.
Okay, great.
But it's fascinating to me that generally speaking in early deconstruction, there's this need to be like, okay, so what, like, I still need to find myself. Most people deconstruct out of Christianity and go, well, like, maybe there's a different type of Christianity. Maybe I can find that. And a lot of people don't move beyond that. And that's fine. I'm not saying early stage as in like, that's, you've not grown enough but just like, that's sometimes all the stepping stone needed. People only need to, be LGBTQ affirming or get rid of hell or, whatever. And then they were like, oh, kind of, this works. This really works for me. But it feels like quite late stage. If you keep deconstructing things at a certain point, you go, actually, a lot of this stuff, it's just not particularly relevant or important to me anymore. Like even the labeling, like, or Christian, like I'm like, like that's not an important label anymore. It's not what I'm tied to or whatever. But it is interesting to me. You mentioned how like fundamental progressive Christians can still be, and a lot of Christians, I think there's a big conflation with people that are kind of like the nuns, duns, and people that are progressive Christian are still very Christian. They are inclusive of different groups, but they're still very like, Jesus died for this reason, or like this is who Jesus is, or this is how it pans out, or this is what God
still dogma like. There's still doctrine,
absolutely, which is okay, I guess.
Sure.
But I guess the reason I was questioning that was I was basically going to say, is there stuff that you haven't deconstructed, or you're scared to deconstruct? Like, are you in a place where you've gone, now I've kind of like looked at everything, I'm kind of good, and anything that comes up, I feel like I'd be willing to take that apart? Or is there stuff that you, from where you came, you're still holding on to, that you're like, oh, I don't want to go there? Because that's something that fascinates me, is as people keep moving forwards, what we hold on to.
This is a great question. This is gonna come back on a future DRCK episode, and we're gonna give you some credit, because I've been thinking about this. I think about what I do in moments of fear for the people that I love. And I think about, so I have a 3-year-old son and a 1-year-old daughter. And I've been married for 6 years. And I think about when I get afraid of something, or fear for my health, protection from coronavirus, my first thing that I want to do is like say a prayer. And I think a thing for me that I haven't quite deconstructed, or I am hesitant to let go of, if I'm honest with myself, is the idea of what prayer is and what prayer does. And it's like, well, am I just speaking to myself? Because that is valuable. And if that's what it is, then it is what it is. Am I speaking to the universe? What does that even mean? Am I speaking to the Christ? What does that even mean? What does this have to do with anything? Am I wasting my breath? And so I think, if I'm honest, in those quiet moments where I'm truly afraid, your whole life, when you're afraid, all you do is pray. And you were taught to pray. If you don't know where to go, and you don't know what you're doing, you cast all your cares upon the Lord and you pray. And so I think a pillar in my deconstruction that I am kind of circling, and I haven't even gotten there yet. It's almost like I'm going to save this for the end, because I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to find when I get there. And I'm not sure if I'm quite there yet, or ready for it. I think prayer is that for me.
Yeah.
What does it mean? What does it do?
Do you think that's linked to a desire to hold on to a personal God? You know, you talk about this kind of like the universe, the divinity. We lose the second person of God. You know, the first person, second person, third person. First person is the God within. Third person is the God in everything. But the second person is like the God I can sit down and look at and talk to, the invisible person on the chair I'm praying to. Or do you think it's linked to that component? Because it becomes really hard to pray to God who is oneself, or the God who is the universe and the tree and the whatever.
I think it is tied to an idea of, do I truly believe that the divine is for me? And so if I pray, it is under the assumption that I'm talking to something. I'm talking to it. Maybe it is personal, but it's also like there is a benevolence that prayer is trying to evoke. And as soon as, if I truly deconstruct prayer, or if wherever I do land, or whatever prayer becomes, if it lands on just kind of not doing anything, then there is a link to, there is no goodness that I can count on to protect me from coronavirus, or to protect my kids from, and there is a fear there. And I think I have to dig down into my own childhood trauma and my own religious trauma, because fear steered the ship for so long, right? And like the remedy to fear is prayer, like I already said. So I think I'm going to have to do some work to unravel what it is that causes me to be afraid. And then once I get down to what's causing me to be afraid, then kind of like the crutch of prayer, or maybe not even a crutch, the remedy of prayer, I can approach maybe with a clearer perspective, without feeling like tensed up when I approach it, you know?
Yeah. Wow.
It's interesting.
I talk a lot, dude. I'm sorry.
No,
Phil.
Look, no, what you said, it was interesting because I can't even remember. It was this past year, but my wife and I went through a miscarriage, and we, in that moment, it was just a lot of emotions, and I was sitting there like, but what do I do with this? Because like Adrian said, like I want to go to God, or I'm going to go to my church, or talk to my pastor, which I'd never talked to the pastor, and you're kind of just left with yourself. And so I kind of had that realization. What you said, Adrian, is very apt, because I didn't think about it. In typical Josh fashion, it just happened and I let it go and I could just continue moving on. But it is that, well, shit, what do I turn to? And now, like, dealing with this Corona stuff going on and Florida being stupid, and like my son's school is fully virtual next year, and like when things kind of go haywire, what do you do? And the only like comfort I found in those moments was it was a documentary about Ram Dass on Netflix, and just how him in like the throes of cancer and it like ending his life basically, because he was just incapable of doing anything. He had to lean on people. The one thing he said was like, when he was capable and walking around and just doing things for himself, he really enjoyed going out and speaking to people. But when life came and gave him cancer, which for most people is like the end all be all, either they die from it or they slowly die from just the weight of having it, just identifying as a cancer survivor. He said, now I get the joy of having people just help me constantly. Yeah. So it was just this man's peace with whatever life brought him, whether good or bad. There was something he could take from it. Yeah. And so finding some, I mean, prayer is such a big thing, but like looking in the moment and seeing what that miscarriage or what this fucking, how the hell am I going to teach my son for an entire school year at home? Like what is there that the universe is trying to teach me? Because when I was in the church, it's all God. I'm like, but what is God? It was God, but who is God? Or it's because you went to summer camp and you did that, or that good thing happened because you went on this mission trip, or this bad thing happened because you looked at pornography, or this bad thing happened because you yelled at your parents. There's always like this happened because of this happened.
Cause and effect. Yeah.
Yes. But like embracing the fact that life happens just because life happens. And like, you take the good and the bad and you have to sift through it. And now I know why the church doesn't talk about that, because it's not easy, because it can't be handled in a 45-minute sermon.
No. Right.
But it has been talked about ad nauseum by millions of people for years and years and years. And then when I start digging into Ram Dass, or like I mentioned before, the desert fathers and desert mothers, or these Christian mystics, or these Buddhists, or these people in Hinduism, how they've all approached this stuff. And like, I'm finding these beauty and this truth and this comfort in these books I was never allowed to read. Then I have like this anger to the church. Like, you kept this from us. You're still keeping it from people. Like, you're not allowing people to experience the breadth and enjoyment of the full color of the rainbow, because you're only letting them see this and saying this one's the correct one. Yeah. When there's so much history and beauty and pain out there that people can learn from. Yeah. And just chew on for a long time. Yeah. And never having to arrive at an answer. And that's still just as fine as having an answer. Yep. There's so much resentment that I'm still working through, where like there's so much help I took from a passage from Rumi. But I could never talk about him. I could only approach him through a weird band that Adrian and I found. And they would quote Rumi in their lyrics, but I could never talk about that in church, because the dude was too brown for the church. He was from the Middle East somewhere, wasn't a white dude wearing khakis and sandals. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And not to mention, I mean, he's a fundamental ISIS terrorist, right? Because he's Muslim.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. For sure.
Immediately.
For sure.
I mean, he's the devil.
He's a security threat for sure.
Regardless 100%. Of what he said. Right.
Exactly.
He could have said Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, and we'd be like, whoa. Like, hold on.
TSA alert.
This guy's a Muslim. Like, is he trying to...
Yeah.
That's crazy. Wow. Guys, I'm aware with 2 hours, and I said we'd be about 2 hours, so I don't want to steal all your evening. But we should do this again. I'd love to have you guys on again if you're up for chatting again, because I feel like we could bounce around a million different things and have some great conversations. And I want to know more as well. I mean, I don't know if this is what I do. I mean, I help people in their deconstruction process, but just you guys sharing, I'm like, I want to ask more questions now. I want to dig deeper.
Let's do more.
Are you scared of death? You know, like,
okay. Well, it depends if you want to hear me crying into
dude. I frequently am told by some of my closest friends that I am a sadist who enjoys making them cry and have existential crisis. So, I mean, that is my goal in most of my guests. I don't tell them when I give you the blurb of like, hey, I'd like to have my podcast. This is my audience. This is why I'd love to have you on. I don't include the small print, which says, I want to make you have an existential crisis.
I'm going to collect your tears and sell them to Josh's grandmother. That's all.
You have a raging erection right now, Phil. You need to put that away, sir.
Don't put the camera down. Keep it above waist level.
Oh man, this has been super awesome. And we got to have you on our show for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
It's been honestly amazing having you guys on, and we should stay in touch and do something again. It'd be great. I really appreciate what you guys are doing. Honestly, what you guys are doing is so important and such a unique exploration of the whole world of deconstructing, dechurching, whatever that looks like. I mean, there's 110 different names and languages, but it's all the kind of medley of like, oh fuck, what's happening, and you guys are doing an amazing work in that on your social media, on the podcast. Absolutely love it. I think it's really important, and so thank you. How can people connect with you? What's the best way for people to connect?
Joshy?
So we are Dirty Rotten Church Kids on Instagram. The podcast is the same name. You can get us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcast, all those good places. On Twitter, we are DirtyRottenCK. And if you want to email us something, it's the same thing, dirtyrottenck@gmail.com.
Awesome.
Those are the plugs.
I'm going to get those all in the show notes so people don't have to memorize. I'm going to record an intro and an extra, so there'll be a long blurb telling them seriously follow their stuff.
Cool.
But yeah, no, I really loved having you guys on. Thank you so much. I appreciate you making the time. I know it's an awkward time stealing your family time from you, so you can work with me. And I'm like, I don't even know what time it is. It's like 1 a.m. No one won with this time, but somehow
no one won.
It worked. So no, I'm usually
we're
up to
honored
3
to be
recording podcasts. So
that's crazy.
That's awesome. Really,
we're honored to be here, man. It's cool being on this side of the podcast.
I love when like people asking about it, like, oh yeah, I guess. Then you go on and you're like, oh, this is weird. It's like, I'm not asking questions all the time. If I come on other people's podcasts and I ask them loads of questions, you get in the habit, right?
Yeah.
And so, no, it's fun when you get to, and I figured you guys will enjoy just kind of
sitting back
away and, let someone else.
It was cool not steering the ship.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, you guys did great. I really enjoyed it. It was
Thanks, Phil.
I think you're my first podcast with 3 people. So, well.
Hell
yeah.
And hopefully people hung on. They made it through the kind of the valley of like Orgy Tongs and back out through the existential crisis. And
our listeners would be the valley, and then the Orgy Tongs is actually kind of the climax.
That's the
peak. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I need like 2 names for it, like, right? So I'll get you guys a link that you can plug that's called like Dirty Rotten Orgy Tongs, something like that. I don't know. And then for my audience, we'll go for, I don't know, like
something like heady and kind of somber.
Dirty Rotten, not
church
Orgy
planters
Tongs.
discuss their deconstruction and starting a podcast.
That'll work. That'll do.
That'll do.
Something
awesome.
All right,
man.
Love you guys. Have a good evening.
Appreciate you, Phil.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you, Phil.
See you guys.